I want to go back to the GameStop story. GameStop shares continue to plunge in pre-market trading. Looking now at the Bloomberg, down more than 43%. Let's now go to Bloomberg Markets editor Mike Regan, who joins me now. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for being here. I'm wondering, wasn't this how the story was going to end? I mean, this was kind of inevitable, right?
I think a lot of people would agree with you, Tim, on that. I mean, this is kind of the nature of short squeezes, is that you can get these tremendous, unbelievable gains in a short period of time. But once those short sales are covered, once the borrowed stock is repurchased and those hedge funds and other traders who were short the stock really begin to aggressively cover, then this is typically the result. You'll see these really big drawdowns on the other side of the squeeze. And that really seems to be what we're seeing today, not only with GameStop, but with a lot of these wild Reddit stocks like AMC and Express, the clothing retailer, and also with silver, which, the commodity that Reddit sort of focused in on over the weekend and late last week. That is now down about 7% when you're looking at silver futures. So it appears for the moment, and these things can change. Both of these stocks that I mentioned, AMC and GameStop, their short interest is still very high. It's just off of those sort of unbelievable levels that it was. So it's really hard to know, okay, who's the next short that's going to cover? Are the shorts that are in there now, do they have more time and capital and patience to ride this sort of thing out? And only time will tell, really, if this is sort of truly the end of this type of short squeeze, or if it could kind of resurface again in the near future.
Yeah, look, that's my big question, right? What happens next year? By the way, looking at shares of AMC pre-market right now, down close to 30%. So certainly seeing the tumble there as well. What does this mean, Mike, for the amateur traders who held stock? And I would imagine in some of these cases bought it after it had risen.
Yeah, Tim, I think the main lesson is that, like I said, trying to trade on this theme of a short squeeze can be very lucrative. Obviously, it's also highly risky. It's timing the market basically on a micro fashion, trying to time when the boil of these stocks comes off. And it's really hard to do. It can be rewarding. It can be incredibly risky if you get in too late, as we're seeing now. Anyone who obviously got in at GameStop near the highs of $483, you're now looking at the stock in the neighborhood of the 120s. I mean, a stock that is being squeezed from a short seller perspective can be super, super volatile on the way down as well as the way up, Tim, obviously.
You sort of alluded to this, Mike, in thinking about the legacy of what happened last week. But I'm wondering how this shakes out over the next few weeks, over the next few months, and certainly over the next few years. Are we going to look back on this week, January of 2021 as when things really changed for hedge funds and short sellers?
We've definitely seen a dramatic shift in sort of the complexion and the motivation of traders in the market. I think this hive mind of traders that you're seeing on Reddit and other social media, the power that genie's out of the bottle. The power of the hive mind is clear to all now. So whether it focuses again on GameStop or AMC or one of these stocks, or goes into some completely other direction, I think is what everyone's going to be wondering now. But the power of this hive mind, what the collective little trader can do, small money trader can do when they band together, is obviously super powerful. And I think it's a force that we're going to have to deal with going forward. I joke with some colleagues that we're going to be looking at the morning notes saying, well, JP Morgan upgraded this stock, Goldman downgraded this stock, and here's what the Reddit traders want to do, because I think it's going to be here to stay.
Look, you make a really good point, because those notes that we hear from the big banks and the analysts, they obviously have the ability to move an equity stock. They have the ability to move a company stock, and the same thing that we saw with Wall Street Bets last week. That's certainly the case. I just want to end talking about broader market implications for this. We had a wild week in the markets last week. It was the worst week in months, and quite a bit of a sell-off. And then yesterday we had a rally. Did anything that happened with these small caps that saw a run up, did any of that actually have an effect on the way that investors were thinking about the broader markets, and have anything to do with the movements that we saw?
I think it definitely had quite a bit to do with the movements. Now, it's hard to ever say definitively this, caused this effect. But if you sort of read the tea leaves of the market, it was clear that hedge funds, and not just the ones that have made the news, but many hedge funds were on the wrong foot of a lot of these trades. So what that means is if they have to cover these shorts, they've got to raise that money somewhere to pay for these stocks at these really high prices. So of course, what they're going to do is sell out of the stocks, some of the stocks they're long, which tend to be, more of the big brand name, heavily weighted in indexes stocks that we're all familiar with. And I think that's why we saw so much tumultuous activity in the market last week. Is they call it degrossing in the hedge fund industry, where you're basically lowering your exposure to the stock market, both on the short and the long end, because of this uncertainty and this volatility. And I think that definitely was a big part of the story last week. Going forward, it may not necessarily be, but I think it is the type of thing that we'll have to keep in the back of our minds now, going forward, as we see, where does this hive mind go next? What is their next target? What do they want to get long? And you never know. These same type of traders could want to get short someday, something. So it's a brave new world for sure, Tim.
Brave new world. The story continues. Mike Regan, we are so happy that you were able to join us this morning on Quick Take. Thanks so much for taking the time.